Back on the Boulevard, Thursday, March 23rd. As always, here to prove to you, there is no such thing as football season. Past the halfway point, we've handed out our Freshie Awards. Wanted to say thank you to all the players who shared our content. Interacting you has been awesome throughout the last couple days. Your friends and family sharing things, sending us positive messages. You're the ones we give a platform to. You give a platform to us. It works both ways. It's incredible, the engagement we got. So thank you to all the XFL players and coaches and directors of player personnel and staff for sharing our stuff. We'll run it back in the postseason. We'll have some different categories. And we did have physical awards to give out for you guys. Unfortunately, Mikey Manziel flew Spirit Airlines again, and they misplaced his luggage. So maybe a couple more months on those physical awards. Get it together, Mike. Come on. These players need to be honored. So what do we got tonight? A 5-week drive to the XFL playoffs. 4 teams in the playoff, about 5 or 6, I'd say, jockeying for position. Currently on the outside looking in, the Seattle Sea Dragons. But how long will that be the case? Well, let's ask the producer, director, and owner of the humble abode we call Studio Z, Chris Zook. Your Seattle Dragons with 3 in a row now. Can they keep it rolling right into the XFL playoffs? I know we were discussing our championship game plans, and you seem pretty confident that the Dragons are going to be in San Antonio in May,
say that,
which is laughable to me.
It's
you have to go
laughable.
through DC. Come on now.
Get out of here. It's coming.
Well,
I told you last week that I thought they were going to make a playoff run, and it's here. I mean,
St. Louis may be falling off a little bit. You get a bye week with Orlando coming up here.
Well, let's not call it a bye, but
if Seattle gets to 4-2, St. Louis might be the same. We're going to preview all the games for you tonight. It's going to be interesting in this loaded XFL North. My prediction is going to remain that the third place team in the North is going to have a better record than Arlington to finish the season. We'll tell you why here coming up. On tonight's show, the St. Louis Battlehawks looking to bounce back after DC invaded the Dome. How are they going to show that there's still a playoff team in St. Louis? They'll be taking on the Vipers, a little bit of a trap spot. Some of you have been telling me the Vipers hitting their stride at the right time. And of course, the big one, Monday Night Football in the district, 1 versus 2. This will be a preview of the XFL championship game, so enjoy it the first time around. You might see a couple of things that you'll save for May when you think about these two teams. No, the Seattle Dragons will not be there in San Antonio. This will be the title preview, so enjoy it, folks. We'll break it down for you. Rough offensive showing for the Houston Roughnecks in Seattle. How will they bounce back off all that extra rest? And speaking of the defenders, the offensive line just not getting enough credit, so we decided to talk to their anchor. Liam Ryan will join us on Springball Series tonight, talking paving the way for the top rushing attack in the league by almost double the second-place team. We'll cap things off with our Boulevard Best Bets. Got to stay away from the totals. This show will become a soccer show before I bet a total again. It's been miserable with the over-unders. We apologize if you were tailing us. We're sticking to the sides where we're 10 of 15 on those bets. We're going to keep going with what works here, and we got some more winners on the Boulevard for you tonight. Make sure to drop us a like, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying our content. The Freshie Awards was a big hit. Thank you guys again for engaging with our content there. And you only got 5 weeks left for our PS5 Pick'em. The link is in the description. If you go 4 for 4, you have a chance to get an entry for a PS5. We'll give that away in May. I think we have 25 to 30 entries already. Doesn't matter if you already did the 4 for 4. You can do it again as many times as you want. 1 per week, but as many times the rest of the season. Link in the description for that. That will lock Saturday at 1 p.m. at kickoff. Taking a look at our XFL standings. The DC Defenders 5-0, first place in the XFL North, and Houston in the South 4-1. The Roughnecks and the Defenders playing this week. That's why I'm saying it'll be a title preview. St. Louis and Seattle deadlocked in the North at 3-2. Now remember, St. Louis beat the Dragons in week 2, so they will have a chance there as the Dragons keep on winning. Who's gonna, take that second place in the North? In the South, obviously, the Arlington Renegades at 3-2. They've taken a 2-game lead in the XFL South, and the San Antonio Brahmas at 1-4. We'll have a chance to gain some ground in that rematch. Vipers and Guardians in last place in their respective divisions. Now let's talk about the games this week, jumping right into things with the Seattle Sea Dragons and the Orlando Guardians. For the first time since that Battlehawks Brahmas thriller in week 1, we finally get an XFL game on ABC again. It's been too long. I know the league has been moving some things around, trying to upgrade games from FX to ESPN2 and ESPN, but we will get an ABC game. You know what that means? Our highest rated game of the season, potentially. I know we have college basketball going on. We're in the heart of March Madness with the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. This will be a chance for the XFL to do some numbers rating-wise. And we get a pretty solid game here. 1 p.m. kick, Camping World Stadium. Temps in the low 90s expected at kick, but that's just right for Jim Haslett's red-hot Sea Dragons, winners of 3 straight, looking to make it a 4th. Looking at that Seattle offense against the Orlando defense, let's find you the edge. June Jones looking to overcome that turnover bug. 3 interceptions for Ben DiNucci last week. They actually had a total of 4 turnovers. They added a fumble in there. Juice Ellison was just banged up. They threw him in late in the third quarter. Just didn't look 100%. He is out for this matchup. We figured that out right before the show tonight. Juice Ellison ruled out with a knee. So you're going to get a heavy dose of Darius Bradwell, who is actually, I believe, the only active running back on the roster now. So that's going to be tough with Brendan Knox on the IR, Ellison missing it. DiNucci's going to have to throw this thing a lot, especially if he's in a situation where the rush is not working. So what do we know about Seattle's offense? You could tell that Ben DiNucci is getting a little bit more comfortable, right? He's still struggling with the turnovers, but we're seeing him get outside the pocket and scramble. And he doesn't get enough credit. I wouldn't call him a true dual threat. He needs to learn how to slide because he's taken a couple brutal hits so far, and Seattle does not have a solid option at backup. So he needs to learn to slide. Otherwise, his rushing threat could be a difference in this game, especially considering Orlando surrendered 269 through the air to Luis Perez. So the pass game will be just fine for the Dragons. That Guardians pass D has now given up over 1,000 yards on the season. That's 207 yards per game, which again, you're talking about Terrell Buckley here. Former stud defensive back in the NFL. His DC, Tony Carter, was also a corner in the NFL. So this can't be acceptable for them. Pass defense has to get stronger. There's a lot of shifting around personnel-wise going on in that unit. They have yet to find the right mix. But it can't fall all on those guys. You got to get a better pass rush on DiNucci. They have failed to do so this season. They have to make him uncomfortable. And if they have any chance of pulling the upset, you're going to see some sacks. You're going to have to get pressure on DiNucci. Like I said, you got to give some flowers to Damian Willis, the Seattle wide receiver this week. 5 catches, 61 yards, and a nice touchdown catch against Houston. These different receivers keep stepping up. It's like a different one every week. We saw the Pearson game, Gordon game, Jackson game. We've seen Willis in there. Who am I missing? I mean, we saw Jawan Green show out, and the tight end was playing well. So next man up in this Seattle pass game, Damian Willis was that guy last week. It does not matter where you sit on the depth chart. You will get an opportunity with the volume of this pass offense. I could see DiNucci going for 350 and 4 scores here. Obviously, every week I'm going to give the edge to this Seattle offense when it comes to those matchups. Flipping sides of the ball, Orlando offense, Seattle defense. Quentin Dormady getting the start this week for the Guardians. What a show he put on Saturday night in Vegas. 22 of 25, 256 yards and 2 scores. He didn't even start the game. In fact, I think he came in late first quarter. If he would have started the game, they would have had a chance. It came down to that 3-point conversion at the end of the game was no good, but Dormady had a couple more series. They may have had a chance to pull off their first win. A lot of nonsense, guys, that he went through to get back on the field, and he is showing out. Of course, Vegas did not have the strongest pass defense, so Dormady's going to face a bigger challenge here. Remember, the Seattle pass D was tough against Houston. They blanked Houston through 56 minutes or 58 minutes a ball game, so they're shutting them down. I think, what did Houston do in their drive chart? They had punt, fumble, punt in the first half. A.J. Smith was throwing fits. And again, this was a very successful Houston pass attack up to that point. So what is Seattle doing? What are they changing? What is Ron Zook doing to combat these pass-heavy attacks, and Orlando is going to throw another one of them at you with Cody Latimer. Comes down to Chris Payton-Jones, Bryce Thompson, Antoine Brooks. We saw Quinterio Cole starting to show out in that Seattle secondary, all stepping up in huge ways. They were making open field tackles, and that was not the case in week 1 against DC. We saw guys getting run over for Seattle. Clearly, that was a point of emphasis in Ron Zook's defensive meetings. They've corrected it. Not a lot of guys getting through in open space in that Houston-Seattle game Thursday night. You also in the front 7 have Tuzar Skipper, Sharif Miller, Emmanuel Smith. All a nightmare for Quentin Dormady, especially for an Orlando pass protection that has been very fair weather. The pick is Seattle here, Zook, and I think they're going to win comfortably. I could see a 2-3 score win. The Dragons are rolling at the right time, and Orlando is going to get torched through the air. DiNucci, we saw what he did against Vegas. I think he had 380 passing yards and 4 TDs. I think he tops it on Saturday in Orlando. It's going to be hot, though. Guys will be cramping up, which you know a couple things about. Who's the pick, Zook? Surprise us all. Wow, you're picking your team against the worst team in the league.
Wow.
Shocker there. Mikey Manziel going to make it 3 for 3. Orlando on the money line, if you want to take a chance here, plus 320. Would anybody be out of their mind for taking that? Any value on 9.5, maybe? You took Orlando to cover last week.
There's value at 9.5. There's not value on
coming
money
from a
line.
Dragons fan, too.
I'm
I'm more confident in your team this week than you are. How dare you, Zook?
Listen,
I got him by 3 touchdowns.
That's a true fan being scared. That's all that is.
Well, you did go through some hell the first 2 weeks of the season, so I don't blame you. Seattle has to avoid an upset. They cannot lose this game. They're firing away at the right time. You got an inexperienced staff against an experienced staff. I think Seattle is going to cover comfortably here. Moving on to our Saturday nightcap, the St. Louis Battlehawks and the Vegas Vipers. Battlehawks again, looking to bounce back after getting swept by DC. Guys, we can't really call it a rivalry if it's that one-sided. Just saying. No room for error anymore for the Battlehawks when it comes to the playoff race. They got Seattle nipping at their heels. We just went over that. The good news, Jared Jones-Smith, starting left tackle, back off the suspension. Feels like forever ago that DC and St. Louis got in that brawl post-game. But some guys had to serve 2-game suspensions. Jared Jones-Smith was one of them. He'll be back. The bad news, Vegas has Jeff Badet, our Freshie Award for most exciting player at the midseason. Not going to be fun covering him, especially with 3 starters in the secondary listed on the injury report this week. I know St. Louis has a good pass defense, but they're banged up back there. Ben DeLuca will be out. I think Mike Hampton was questionable. Got some injuries. So I did see an Instagram story from Jeff Badet the other day sharing Luis Perez's stat line, which was incredible. I think he was 20 for 28 for 269 and 2 scores, no picks the other night. Jeff Badet shared that stat line and captioned it, "My QB1." So we're not going to paint this as him throwing shade at Brett Hundley. We're just going to watch our week 1 film, watch our week 5 film. Clearly, Perez loves Badet. That's his favorite guy. When Hundley was in there, we saw a little bit more Martavis Bryant, Geronimo Allison. Obviously, the two were Packers together. And with Perez, it seems like more Sinque Sweeting and Jeff Badet. So I understand, receivers have to play favorites sometimes, but looks like Perez will be the starter going forward. That Orlando game was the first time that the Vipers didn't have to deal with driving rains or heavy wind gusts, which was a great point that social media director Dylan Mooney made to us. I didn't realize that throughout the whole season, Vegas was just dealing with terrible weather. They didn't have that, and they got their first win. Still got to be able to run the ball, though. Rod Smith did go for 62 and 2 scores on the ground. So that run game does take a little bit of a step forward heading into week 6. We saw St. Louis get gashed by Abram Smith. That rush defense has not been very good. Certainly holes for the Vipers to exploit there. Got to feed John Lovett, guys, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. He's been that Swiss Army knife. A fun fact on John Lovett, the former Baylor Bear and Penn State Nittany Lion, leading all running backs in the XFL in receiving yards. He has 162. Just for perspective, that's more than Austin Prohl and Martavis Bryant, actual receivers. John Lovett, 24.3 yards per catch. Phenomenal. Got to get him the ball. But the big stat for Vegas last week, 0 sacks allowed. That was the first time they had done that all season. Again, showing you the St. Louis defense. Been great against the pass, not good against the run. Given up a lot of points so far. So what can Vegas do here to get the edge? Well, Viper faithful remember how close that opener was in Arlington. They ultimately lost that game because of the inability to protect Luis Perez. I know he made some ill-advised throws in that game, but one of them that went to a pick six late in that game was because he had pressure in his face. They have got to hold up along that offensive front. Playmakers all over the place in Vegas. Remember, Jeff Badet, Sin-Q Sweeting. Luis Perez has a swagger bag. You got John Lovett, Torrey. All these guys are capable of making plays on the edge. Even throw in Brian and Allison, and the tight ends have been great. Sean Price. So last in the league in sacks. Who do you think that is? The St. Louis Battlehawks. Only 5 sacks this season. Donnie Abraham's unit has to get a better pressure on Luis Perez. Silas Kelly, his linebacker, is banged up for this one. We'll have to check the status on him. Doesn't look like he's going to play Saturday night. And again, some injuries in the secondary as well. Other side of the ball. This is where St. Louis, I would say, has a pretty big edge. Quentin Dormady made that Vegas secondary look silly the other night. We heard Rod Woodson make a comment at the end of that game. We have to get a first down. We cannot put our defense back out there. Which makes me wonder. Dwayne Taylor, fired, remember, after I think the Vegas Vipers had the 5th total offense in the league. There were definitely worse offenses and coordinators like in Arlington and San Antonio that were able to hold on to their jobs for longer than Dwayne Taylor. And again, maybe it was more than just what Rod Woodson was looking at on the field product. There could have been attitude issues, a number of things that could have happened. But remember, I would like Rod Woodson to keep that same energy with Chris Dishman because this defense has not been good for Vegas. I know some guys have been banged up. They're getting some players back. But A.J. McCarron will tear this secondary apart if they don't get their footing under them. Think about DiNucci in week 3, what he did to this Vegas secondary. He was just launching balls up in the air at that point, knowing that his receivers were going to win the battle regardless of where he threw it. McCarron has a chance to have his best game so far here. I think St. Louis has faced the toughest schedule up to this point so far. They have not played Vegas. They have not played Orlando. But this is a tough trap spot for them. Vipers are just hitting their stride. Now they believe they can win with another one under their belt. They could keep stacking wins. They can make this thing a race. Vegas has the capability to do so. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough from their defense yet. And that defense has Max Roberts banged up. He's probably the best athlete in that front 7. Rob Windsor also been dealing with injuries. So you got Peta, number 0 in there in the pass rush. He got to make it happen. That St. Louis receiving core could definitely make the Vipers pay. 236 and 2 scores for A.J. McCarron against D.C. And it was our unanimous selection for first-team All-Pro quarterback was A.J. McCarron. I think that a lot of you would have arguments for DiNucci, for Brandon Silvers. I go A.J. McCarron. I think he's been the best so far, even though the record hasn't reflected it. Got Akeem Butler, Darius Shepard, Austin Prohl, Stephen Mitchell, plus George Campbell even scored. So a lot of weapons for him. I think Vegas, again, struggles defending the pass. I was very close on this one, Zook. I do think it's a little bit of a trap spot. I got St. Louis to win, but Vegas to cover here. Who are you going with on Saturday night? FX.
Bounce back game for St. Louis.
The Battlehawks will be 4-2 at that point. And like I said, they have faced the toughest schedule, in my opinion, so far. Now Seattle has had it rough with 5 games in 25 days.
Sure.
But I think from an opponent perspective, being able to avoid Vegas and Orlando. I know it's something you talked about with DC. They got Vegas twice.
Right.
Houston got Orlando twice. St. Louis hasn't seen either of those, and they've still managed to go 3-2. Right? So now they're going to see those teams coming down the stretch. That's why it's going to be so tough for St. Louis and Seattle in the north. You going Battlehawks? Do the Battlehawks cover the 3?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, Zook with a late change of his best bet here.
My bad. Yeah. St. Louis covers.
As long as Mikey doesn't pick St. Louis, I think we're safe.
Who knows?
And he's obviously going to take the Vegas Vipers. He was right last week. And let me just address something, Mike. You're going to say, oh, we didn't put you on man-to-man with Mikey Manziel because Vegas won. That was not the case. Okay? We had a programming note on our Twitter that we were going to do a special episode on Monday night. That was the Freshie Awards, and that was a big success. And Mike got to be on the Freshie Awards. He even got to present a few fun facts about players. So you will see Man to Man with Mikey Manziel Tuesday night. Remember, we got a Monday night football game. We're going to get to that one coming up after the break. That will push the show to Tuesday. Zook and I going Battlehawks. Mikey Manziel going Vegas Vipers. Over under in that one, 44.5. Could see some fireworks. So if you're enjoying us, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Please, we are independent and we rely on you, the fans, to boost us up in that nasty YouTube algorithm. PS5 giveaway is live. Got the link in the description for you. Go 4 for 4, get an entry. Simple as that. Don't worry about spreads or totals. Just pick them straight up. And I teased it in the beginning. We have a special guest on tonight's show. Liam Ryan, number 63. Left tackle, left guard, center. He's played it all this year. Paved the way for the number 1 rushing attack in the game. And they don't get enough credit, so I decided to talk to Liam this week. Enjoy it. We'll be back on the Boulevard to break down the other 2 games and give our best bets coming up next. He is the anchor of an offensive front that has paved the way for the number 1 rushing attack in the XFL, started all 5 games up front, and helped the DC Defenders to a perfect start. Liam Ryan, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me on.
So getting a little bit into your background first off, before we talk about your time in DC here, obviously you were signed to the Seattle Seahawks. Your buddy Abe Lucas, who was a part of that draft class as well, I think he was a 3rd-round draft pick, regarded as one of the best draft classes of the whole NFL in Seattle. What was that like for you guys to kind of both be on the same team there for a little bit and share that friendship to where you can create that memory of both not only being at Wazoo together, but then Seahawks?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to have, when you go into college with somebody. He was actually a year younger than me, but, we ended up starting, I think, every single game, same exact time. I think I remember it was our first game we started was Wyoming. And I mean, me and him, we both kind of were nervous because it was both our first starts because we had a really good O-line class, before us. And we had a lot of good guys. We try to get a bunch of O-linemen to come there and then, eventually become, like us and playing pro ball and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was really cool. I'm still really close with him and his family, and it's likewise the other way. And we still live together in Seattle, so we're talking constantly. So it was pretty awesome to be around him for that time. And while I'm here for a little while, I mean, we still talk to each other on the daily. So yeah, we just look out for each other.
Yeah, bright things in his future for sure, and I'm sure yours
Mm-hmm.
as well. You guys were part of the first Washington State squad to win an Apple Cup in 6 years. As a huge college football fan, I remember that
Mm-hmm.
game, and not a
Yeah.
lot of people expected you guys to run it up the way you did. That was a good game. What are those memories like, sharing some of those with Abe and at Washington State? And I guess that would have been your last game there, correct?
Yeah, that was our last game there. We both ended up getting surgery after that game. I played with a torn labrum in my hip the whole year. Not many people knew that. So I played with a torn labrum that whole season, and then that was pretty much the last game because I was kind of tapped out after that. I was in so much pain. And then Abe ended up opting out for that bowl game as well, just getting ready for combine and all that stuff and Senior Bowl stuff. So yeah, that was our last game together. It was something that we can cherish together forever, because I think it was like 9 years previously before the Apple Cup was brought back. So we did it for a lot of people, just a lot of hard work with Coach Leach when he was there with us, and we were just never able to get over that hump that last game. And then also, I mean, we also did it for Nick Rolovich, our coach, who got fired that year. There's a lot of scrutiny behind the whole vaccine and all that stuff, and a lot of our coaches got fired that year, and it was tough on us. We went through kind of like a little bit of a funk, so we had a lot of fuel, and yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it's nothing. It's hard to even describe it now because of all the stuff that we went through that year just to finally win the Apple Cup. And it was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and you've certainly faced a ton of adversity. I think the Pac-12, obviously they did things differently during that COVID year. SEC played a full schedule. I think big, like conference schedule wise. I think you guys only had 5 games. So for you to
We had
have that, yeah.
we
And
had
then
six
tear
games
your
scheduled.
labrum in the full season.
Yeah,
It's like you can't
yeah,
catch a break. But at least you did get the Apple Cup, I'm sure. That was a great way to
yeah.
go out. And speaking of Coach Leach, obviously you played in this offense that AJ
Hmm.
Smith now runs for the Houston Roughnecks.
Yep.
Smith has referenced this many times. It's basically a copy, and he learned from Leach, and him and Leach were very connected as you two were. So have you been in the defensive meetings, kind of showing the guys how this offense runs it all this week?
No, I haven't really been in the defensive meetings. I mean, our defensive coach, Greg Williams, is a freaking genius. So I have no doubt that he'll have it all schemed up and all of that. But no, yeah, just it I mean, even for Seattle, I mean, I'm always giving him tips and stuff because I ran the run and shoot when we played against Seattle, and that's what they're doing for the Sea Dragons. So I gave him little tips and tricks for at least for the D linemen because I can only tell them schematically based off of what the offensive line's probably going to do. They're going to get, a ton of pass pro in and they're going to get a lot of rushes. So, but no, being around Leach, he taught me a lot of things. So, but I'm no doubt about it. I think our defense will be ready and schemed up for them.
And obviously, good offensive linemen are few and far between in this league. It's hard to find 5 good ones to start in the NFL. And you guys,
Mm-hmm.
you slide in, you played left tackle in college, you slide in the left guard, and you go from an air raid to a rushing heavy offense now with Fred Keiss, who likes to pound it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, First off, what have the main differences be in sliding inside, playing guard, and then mostly run blocking in this offense versus what you did before in college?
Yeah, so I played left tackle in college for I think around 30 something games. My first start was actually at left guard, where I'm at now. And then when I was with the Seahawks, they're a mid-zone team. They run the crap out of the ball too. So I learned a lot while at my time was there. I learned a lot of run blocking techniques and tips and tricks from them. And and I also played center there in Seattle as well. And so I think I had to play a game at center. I think it was our first St. Louis game that I played center. Both of our other centers went down; they're back now. I feel comfortable at guard or center wherever that may be. But yeah, it's been kind of a ride so far. I think I've taken 3,000 snaps in college, and the majority of them have been pass pro. So it's kind of nice, switching it up and showing that I can run block a little bit. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to talk about some of the injuries. Obviously, Mike goes down week 1, right off the bat. You lose your
yeah,
center. Then Cody, week 2, first drive, he's down.
yeah,
Ty Clary goes in, he gets hurt.
yeah,
And there's only like 10 guys in this room, I think. And you lose 3 like that. Obviously, you and Liam Fornadell have been banged up.
yeah.
How are you guys doing this with all these injuries and being so shorthanded to begin with the amount of linemen that are allowed to be on this team? How are you guys pulling together? Are you just playing through pain, or is this just something that you've figured out like a good 5 at this point, and people are getting healthier as the season goes on?
Yeah, we've kind of had to have a bunch of guys play different positions that they're not used to. And I mean, we have, I think, a backup for both tackles. And, both the backups are now the starters now, just because of how the chips have fallen. I mean, guys have gotten injured. You don't wish that upon anybody, but, it's kind of a next man up mentality. And we've kind of created that in the room that if somebody goes down, we have to be able to trust the next guy who's going to be able to come up. And that's, I think, in all pro sports, I think you have to be ready for the next guy to come up and be good at doing their job. And you have to have trust in them. I think trust is a big thing that we have in our room. And if you don't know your plays, you're probably not going to play. So, yeah, trusting each other, and it starts in practice. So, we kind of got a rotation going. It was kind of a struggle with Mike and Ty being down, and then Cody went to IR. So it was just it was a struggle for a while, and then once we got those bodies back, it was a lot better. We got to get in the groove of things with the O line that kind of started off everything. So it's nice to be able to practice with guys you're going to play next to, um, you know, on game days. So that's what I think practice is huge. So I think that's where it all comes into play is, also taking the right amount of reps in practice so then you don't feel banged up for the games.
Right. You kind of touched on it. It is part of a championship culture for that next man up. No championship team has ever folded when the backups had to come in. So I think I kind of identified that from week 1 or 2 with all these guys being hurt. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, they're not going to be able to run the ball at all. Well, that was not the case. You guys have
Mm-hmm.
improved each week with running. Abram goes off for 218 and 3 touchdowns last week.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome to watch. Now, I did want to touch on quickly. You were listed on the injury report this week with a knee. You feeling good this week for Monday, and what's your status like going forward?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm always ready to play. I think throughout the whole season, you'll probably see a lot of people on that list who are just banged up, and
Yeah.
it's just part of football. You got to be able to lift each week to stay healthy, I think, and make sure you just keep eating right. And I kind of have like a routine throughout each week. And I think today was one of our padded practices, so it was a little bit harder. So reps might have been down a little bit, but yeah, it just depends how each guy's kind of feeling. Our coaches have us rotating and all that stuff just to keep our bodies fresh. And then as the weeks go on, or as the week goes on, practices get a little bit easier, and you've watched a lot more film, so it should be more kind of walk through tempo and all that, and just fitting up. And I think that's where it's more mental reps, and that's where you're not taxing your body as much. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm healthy and feeling good, just ready to roll this week. Got to play a good Houston team. So
Yeah, it's definitely been a grind. Obviously, no bye weeks. You're 10 weeks straight. Plus, you guys had the training camp. You have a ton of plane rides. You're back and forth from Arlington to DC. You were in St. Louis, all over the place. So it really is a grind here for 10 weeks. Speaking on
yeah,
Houston, they have a really, really tough rush defense. They haven't allowed 100 yards to any team rushing in their 5 games this season. What do you see on film from that Phillips 3-4 and what Brian Stewart runs there and how they stop the run?
yeah, I think they have a plethora of D linemen that play. You see a lot of guys. I think it was number 89 is a really, really good pass rusher. I think there was another guy that Liam Fortinell went to school with, number 45, I think his numbers. I don't know too many names. I just remember numbers and the way I'm looking at scheme stuff. And then both their linebackers are really good, really quick. They like to fly around. But I mean, that's been, our game. We just got to stick to our game plan and what we're used to, and kind of go back. And we've been preaching about chopping wood all week. Just keep going back and chopping wood and doing what we're used to do. Because last week we really showed it, I think, and I think that's what our standard is now. Is being able to run the ball and open things up. So, but no, they have a really good defense, and I'm really looking forward to it. St. Louis had a really good defense, I thought, and so did Vegas. And we got to play them twice in 4 weeks, all of them twice in 4 weeks, which is pretty crazy because you kind of get to get used to them. And now it's a new team, and it'll be a little bit more of a challenge because we haven't played against them. This is, I think our first, non-conference game. So, but been able to watch them on some of the times that we've had Sunday games and they've had Saturday games, and they're electric too. So it should be a good, fun battle out there on Monday.
Well, I can tell you, all 22 guys on the field in this one, plus the sidelines coaches, everybody in the booth is going to be expecting to see each other again in the championship because you guys expect the championship mentality, Houston's the same way. I think they were a little shocked losing to Seattle. Seemed like they were kind of caught off guard. And I wanted to ask you about the scheduling in this league. Obviously, you guys haven't had a Thursday game yet. Ben DiNucci, Seattle quarterback, talked about a little bit having, I think it was 5 games in 25 days. A few teams have played that Thursday game. Houston's now coming off the other end of it, right? So they played Thursday night, came back to Arlington, and they had those extra couple of days. Does that benefit at all, you think, in the schedule that you guys have? Because everyone's kind of running a similar schedule, other than like one team practices in the morning, one team practices in the afternoon. But does that
Yeah.
benefit Houston at all to be able to get that extra rest?
Yeah, I would say so. I just think it just depends, on how you utilize your rest days. Are you just going to sit around and eat a bunch of food, or are you going to go and get some active recovery in? I think it just depends on what you do those days. But I mean, with Seattle's schedule, I thought, they definitely had a tough schedule the first couple of weeks. They were playing a lot of games and had to, cram it all into a couple of weeks. And I mean, even this week we play Monday, and then we got to play, the next week we got to play Saturday versus Orlando. So I think it's a mentality thing. I think you just got to go into it, preparing the best as you can. Your body's going to feel the way it feels. You just got to do as much as you can to prepare it for that week. But as weeks go on, you definitely do feel it. It takes a toll because there is no bye weeks in here, and each team, expects to get to the championship. So, you're expecting 12 games the whole season. So, yeah, it's tough. The scheduling's tough. And I mean, we played, I think it was Vegas week 2, St. Louis week 3, Vegas week 4, and then St. Louis week 5. And so you're playing 2 teams that you kind of know back to back to back to back. Yeah, you get those games out of the way, but now we have all these teams that we haven't even seen on film on the latter half of the season. So, yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, the scheduling's a little bit different from a normal, football schedule. You're not going to normally play teams twice unless you're in the NFL, and they usually break those up. I think pretty well. So yeah, it was a big change up for me, at least playing a team back to back weeks. That was definitely a change up, but it's football at the end of the day. We got to go out and play. So.
Right. I was going to ask about, I talked to somebody from Orlando a few weeks ago, and they played at Arlington. He said that felt more like a home game for us, being 10 minutes away from the stadium. It seems a little different at Audi Field with the atmosphere that they've created. What's it like playing there? Do you feel like when you're playing there, you're playing a home game, even though you're not based in DC? Have they created that atmosphere to welcome you guys in and make you feel like you got a serious home field advantage? You guys haven't lost there yet.
Yeah, I think even with St. Louis, they got a great fan base too. I got to credit them. I enjoy those hostile environments, having to rise up, having to beat, the other team and their fan base, because I think home field advantage is a huge thing. I think we're just, we're very fortunate to have a great fan base out there. And, even when I was with the Seahawks, like, they have an incredible fan base. And that's one thing that you can always count on is, yeah, you may be down in the game, but the fans are always going to stay in the game, and they're going to keep you right in there because, it takes one penalty to, screw up somebody's momentum. Whether it could be a false start penalty from them being too loud or, just, I think they threw lemons on the field. They're a pretty rowdy, group, and started a beer snake and raged about the beer snake being taken away. And it's just it was a really, really fun atmosphere the first couple games. I'm excited to see what it's like on Monday. Both teams, going in there really, really good. It was electric when we played St. Louis, and we were both 2-0. So yeah, I think our fan base is, one of the best in the XFL for sure.
Yeah, definitely that DC St. Louis rivalry has been huge. Obviously, you guys sweep St. Louis. You have some guys, I think at least one guy coming back off a suspension from the brawl that happened after the game. So it'll be good to get everyone back. I mean, you suspend a guy for 2 games during a 10-game season. I get it. You got to have discipline, but I think, things were a little harsh there. But now you got everybody back. You got a full team. Everybody's getting healthier heading into this Houston game. It should be a good one. I got to ask you last question here. Your short-term and long-term goals coming into the season, have those changed at all? And how close are you to achieving some of them, whether they're personal goals or team goals? Do you feel like you're on a good track here to kind of check all the boxes that you came into Arlington with?
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations coming into here. I was just grateful to play football again. Um, my last game that I actually played was in Arlington. I played it with Seattle, the last preseason game, before signing into practice squad with them. But it was in Arlington, and got to play, against the Cowboys and stuff. And um, it was kind of funny how I ended up back here. And I think God does things in mysterious ways. So I ended up back here, and I didn't really have too many high expectations. I'm just a really, really fierce competitor. I like to win, and I'll do anything to win. And I'm a big team player, and I think any coach that has coached me knows that. And whatever you want me to play, I'll play it, and that's kind of how my mentality's always been. Sacrifice myself for the team and for the betterment of the team. And I honestly just like winning because it's a lot more enjoyable to be around the game, around people when you're winning. And so that's what I look forward to each week, is getting the best competition from whoever I'm lined up across, and trying to out tough them and get the W at the end of the day, no matter how perfect it can be or how ugly it can be. I'm just enjoying the ride for right now, and trying to be where my feet are at. I'm trying not to look too far ahead, because I think when I've looked too far ahead in the past, my mind's kind of been all over the place. So I've kind of just been taught to stay grounded in my faith and just be where my feet are at and give full effort, and give all my presence to where I'm at. So yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a heck of a ride so far. I haven't really expected this. Didn't think we were going to be 5-0, just from our training camp and stuff, and then once we started rolling, it was a different thing. I just had it's a different feeling in the locker room now. Guys are really confident and just ready to play fast. So it's fun to be around. Fun to be around for sure.
And you guys absolutely deserve the credit. Like I said, no matter what skill position players you put around, you got Jordan and Derek at quarterback, you got Abram and Reichel at running back, a plethora of great receivers. No matter who it is, they've been able to be successful because it starts and ends up front. I don't think you guys get enough credit as an offensive line. That's credit to Coach Russ. I know he's instrumental in all this, but yeah, 5-0, man. Good luck. Audi Field, Houston. I'm sure the beer snake will be raging. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a DC fan. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't matter what night it is. You could put it on a Wednesday night. That thing is going to feel like a frat basement in College Park, Maryland with that section 137. Those kids are fired up. It doesn't matter what night it is. It's been a great fan base. Great to watch you guys. Liam, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate that. And like I said, good luck Monday night against Houston, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Wow. Liam Ryan, for the love of football, some of the stories he told us. We talked about him at Washington State. 2020, they only play like 5 or 6 games. 2021, he suffers that injury, plays through it. They win the Apple Cup. And now a anchor of that offensive line on the DC Defenders. Certainly a guy you're going to see back in the NFL soon enough. Again, he talked about his time with the Seahawks and some of his teammates. Going to be great to see Liam's journey and all of the DC Defenders offensive linemen. Thank you, Liam, for joining us on another great episode of Spring Ball Series. And we have a couple more games to get to on the Boulevard tonight. We want to make sure you go 4 for 4 in that PS5 pick'em, so we got to get 2 more picks to you here. The sequel, a Sunday sequel, XFL HQ in Arlington. Not going to lie, guys, I was pretty upset that I missed the opportunity to hop on this under last week. For me, the best bet in week 5 was between the Seattle-Houston over and the Arlington-San Antonio under. I gave the slight edge to that Houston-Seattle over, and they absolutely crushed me. Houston didn't score for 58 minutes. It was a bloodbath of a bet. Meanwhile, the under sailed, and of course it did, because Mikey Manziel had the over. So what do we know about this one? Well, the total's 33. I mean, you lost any value you would have had last week. We did have that in Piper's Parlay, by the way. That cashed. Just 261 passing yards combined in this matchup last week. Remember, came in the two worst offenses statistically in the entire XFL. But the story for San Antonio's offense last week, you see him on the screen there. Reed Sinnett finally got the start after 4 weeks of miserable offense in San Antonio. They demote Jamie Elizondo to wide receivers coach, bring in Jimmy Johnson. 13 of 19 for 97 yards for Sinnett, a touchdown and a pick. That was the stat line, but that wasn't the whole story. A nice pick by Teddy Adewusi set up a nice drive for San Antonio. Remember, this is a team that scores first a lot. I remember them scoring first against Houston. They just seemed to come out firing. They did yet again. Picked off Kyle Sloter, went up 6-0 early in the first quarter. But Sinnett struggled a bit in the second and third. He floated one short, you saw it earlier, to Dion Yelder in the end zone. It was picked off by Joe Powell. Arlington ended up stringing together like a 14-play, 99-yard drive to go ahead and take the lead. And that kind of deflated any hopes for a San Antonio win. And even worse, on that same interception, Sinnett limped off. And reports emerged after the game by Greg Luca of the San Antonio Express News that Sinnett suffered a broken foot. Just a heart-wrenching blow for the Brahmas and the entire league. I can't imagine how Reed feels about this. If you watch Player 54, the docuseries, you know how supportive of a teammate he has been to Jack Cohn and the other players on that roster. They interviewed him on the sideline in-game a few times, and just a great guy, Reed Sinnett. And it really sucks for his whole season to be derailed by injury just 3 quarters into his first start. We really wish Reed Sinnett the best going forward and hope he makes a speedy recovery there. And this was Jack Cohn's absolute last chance when he was thrown in. He did not deliver. So San Antonio went and picked up Kurt Benkert. Used to back up Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, played a little bit of practice squad ball, was with Atlanta, was with Green Bay, most recently, I think, San Francisco. Benkert with a great following on social media, always a fan favorite guy. Did a little thing on his TikTok where he used to throw balls at fans and see if they could catch them. That's a teaser for something we're going to have to do with Mikey Manziel. How fast can he catch a ball from Kurt Benkert? And Kurt can sling it. He was actually invited to the NFL Combine to throw passes to the draft class members. So really cool to see that. I remember Houston wanted him to start the year. Kurt said he didn't want to pick up and move his family to Texas after going through the grind of an entire NFL season. Well, a little bit of a change of heart for Benkert now. Seems like he's got his affairs in order. Houston trades him to San Antonio for Drew Lewis. So they already have 2 quarterbacks. Houston loads up, gets another linebacker out of the situation. Kurt Benkert probably not going to start this week. I'm assuming they'll go Jack Cohn with Jawan Pass as the backup. A little too early for him to get action right away. But I would assume Kurt Benkert's going to get the go down the stretch here. So crucial game for San Antonio. If they can pull this one out, give the keys to Benkert, maybe they make a little run here. Some more stuff about the San Antonio offense against the Arlington defense. Arlington 3 picks last week. They are tied for second in the league in takeaways, 12 in that category. And it's really been their offense that's just been struggling for them, as has San Antonio, 7th in each category. It's a little bit worse for Arlington. And they have made some personnel moves to try to fix it this week, and some good ones. Jordan Smallwood out. Vic Bolden is in. And if you guys watch spring football, you know Vic Bolden, remember, over in Birmingham, he was balling out. I think he had MVP of the championship game for his winning Stallions. Great team they were, catching balls from Jamar Smith out of Meridian, Mississippi. Yeah, Vic Bolden's the real deal, guys, and he's going to be a good addition here. They also moved Kenneth Farrow, the running back, who was showing some spark, to the IR. Went and picked up Brian Harrion, former Georgia tailback. Remember, he was with DC in training camp, so didn't make it through final cuts there. Harrion getting a second chance with the Renegades. They've gone through some running backs, guys. Keith Ford was cut. Adrian Killens was cut. Kenneth Farrow now to the IR. It's just been kind of a musical chairs in that backfield. And Davion Smith really hasn't been able to do much of anything. I feel like every time I look at his stats, he's in like the 2 to 3 yards per carry range, and I'm not so sure it's his fault. Slaughter just 14 of 26 for 148 yards and a pick in this first matchup. Sal Cannella, though, continues to be the silver lining, leading the team in receiving. I think you can really only go up if you're this offense, right? Trending up in the pass department, but the run game has just been miserable, and they've only scored 5 offensive touchdowns on the entire season. So they've decided to stick with Slaughter. I think the chemistry is working with Cannella. Just got to start generating some sort of run game. Again, we're seeing the teams that can run the ball be successful in this league. And Reed Sinnett coming out, Zook, is just a huge blow to San Antonio. We talked about it, the former Philadelphia Eagle. Huge for them to go out and get Kurt Benkert, obviously, on just 2 days. He's not going to be ready to go right away. So Jack Cohn, I mean, I did say it was his absolute last chance when he came in for Sinnett. This is it for Cohn. Like, if he doesn't perform in this game, you may as well just cut him from the team. Cohn has got chance after chance in this offense. He's worked with 2 different offensive coordinators. He got TJ Vasher back now, so that can't be an excuse. That's the top receiver there. Jalen Tolliver was let go, which I think is something they did to make an addition for Kurt Benkert on the roster. So I thought Tolliver played pretty well this season. That was an interesting move, but they got some good threats. Like I said, Vasher, Fred Brown, Alize Mack. So can Jack Cohn get them the ball? He doesn't give me any faith. I'm going with the Arlington Renegades for the second straight time. Again, I picked these games pretty heavily based on my power rankings now versus power rankings that I had in the preseason. Again, in the preseason, I thought Arlington was much better than what they were. They could still end up there, but a long way to go for the Renegades. I just think they sweep San Antonio here. I know that defense has been good for the Brahmas, but they haven't given me any hope on offense, Zook. And you think they're making some adjustments down there in Alamo land, huh?
Yeah, I'm taking San Antonio. I'm not sure why.
See, the computer wanted to disagree. That's why.
What'd I tell you?
Bold call here, Zook. You've been doing good on your straight picks.
It's a gut feeling, and I always trust this gut. So
you and Mike with the guts. I got to catch up here. Got to drink some more beer snakes. Yeah, Zook going with the San Antonio Brahmas, putting his faith in Moan for Cone. Mikey Manziel finally hopping off the train, I think. A couple weeks in a row, he just put his faith in San Antonio. He disgustingly had the over last week. It came 22 points. I mean, 33, Zook. Over, under. Blind shot. What are you taking? I have to think the under here again.
I'm still taking the under.
Yeah.
I mean,
you lose value, but still, I mean.
Neither of these offenses have proved they can score the ball.
The only thing I worry about is a defensive score, which if you remember back to week 2,
sure, I
had the under for San Antonio. What happened? They blocked the punt. So stupid things like that can happen, and you end up cashing the over. But you're sick if you play this game. I would still take the under. There's so many better spots in the card, guys. Just forget this one altogether, as we did for our best bets this week. Go to the XFL North. Much better value. And the one that we've all been waiting for here on the Boulevard, a preview of the XFL Championship game in Audi Field, the first ever edition of Monday Night Football for the XFL. I was campaigning all year, get the Mannings out here. This is on ESPN2, where they're normally home during the NFL season. Can you imagine a Manning cast in the XFL with the access that provides, quarterback to coach communication, open mics, throw Peyton and Eli in there? We got to have it. Zook will tell you, there's never enough production that can be done. That's what we try here for Springball Boulevard. We don't want to overproduce, but there's always little wrinkles that can get added in. I think the XFL has done a great job at their production this year. You throw the Mannings on there, listen, they're not too good for it. They're good friends with The Rock. All right, that's their buddy DJ. So we want to see this going forward. This is going to be electric on Monday night. Under the lights, the DC Defenders 6-0 dating back to XFL 2020. I told all of you a few weeks ago, especially you people that were burying me in the replies. Oh, bias, homer, how dare you put DC above Houston? I was really hoping that it could be settled on the field between 2 5-0 teams, and I said that before on the show. But Houston laid a goose egg against Seattle, and now they're off the extra rest. Wanted to point this out for a second. Remember, Seattle has played 2 Thursday games. That was Houston's first Thursday game on short rest. Ben DiNucci talked about it in his press conference, the Sunday, Thursday. A big reason we picked Seattle to beat Houston in this game you're seeing last Thursday was because they went through that flip already. Now, the Houston Roughnecks benefit on the back end because they were into Arlington early Friday morning. They get 2 days of full rest before the DC Defenders even got to play in St. Louis on Saturday night. So obviously we asked Liam Ryan about that. He said, yeah, it depends how you use that period, right? You got to use it the right way. Take advantage of that rest. Can't just sit around and eat a bunch of food, as he said. But I think this will benefit the Roughnecks here from a scheduling perspective. DC's been all over the place as far as their travel. So one thing that Houston won't be able to fix, I don't care how much rest they have, is replacing Jontre Kirkland. Reports surfacing Kirkland will miss the rest of the XFL season with a chest injury. Again, we've been pretty clean with these injuries all year. I mean, guys have been banged up, but for the most part, the league stars have been able to stay intact. And you know, we talked about Reed Sinnett and that tough injury. With Jontre Kirkland going out, this is a huge blow. I am so sorry for Jontre. I hate to see this. 15 catches, 253 yards, 4 scores through 5 games. What a treat to watch. And nobody's going to top his passer rating. Remember, Jontre, 1 for 1, 49 yards, and a touchdown on that double forward pass they dedicated to Mike Leach in Orlando. Jontre Kirkland, big things coming in his future. Get well soon. So where did the next turn in that air raid without their wide receiver one? Well, they hit the waiver wire, and they came out swinging. What a pickup here. Just in the NFL 12 days ago, a man by the name of Ja'Carry Roberson, former Wake Forest Demon Deacon star, 2,000 yards in his 2 seasons starting down in Winston-Salem. He went for 926 his sophomore year, pushed it over 1,000 his junior year of college, and then 8 touchdowns to account for each year. Some of you remember that game. I was looking through Roberson's film because, again, these guys, it's like so hard to keep track of their careers. They go from college, you know, they're in the league, they're on the practice squads, they get bounced around. But I really try to hone in on college film when these guys get picked up. And one game I did remember, the Wake Forest North Carolina game back in 2020. What an electric game that was in the ACC. The Tar Heels won 59-55. Roberson went 12 for 167 and 2 scores. Absolute thriller of a game. He's going to be a breakout star in this Houston offense going forward. That was a huge pickup. But as far as this week in DC, he's not really going to be available. So you're going to need one of these guys to step up, whether it's Justin Smith, Travell Harris, Deontay Burnett. They've all shown their flashes. A great wide receiver core in Houston. Back in week 2, I said these were the best receivers in the league. Without Kirkland, I think you probably move Seattle up into that category. St. Louis would have an argument as well, but still a loaded core here for A.J. Smith. And let's be honest, Brandon Silvers is going to throw at least 1 pick. This is what DC has done all year. You saw Michael Joseph with his 4 picks. Guys like DeJuan Neal, Santos Ramirez getting involved, Kentrell Bryce. We saw the new addition make a pick this week, the safety. So this Greg Williams defense is always going to create takeaways. This is what they're all about and what they have been all about all season. So go ahead and watch out for number 15 in red. He is a ball magnet out there. And Piper was excited for her parlay, Zook. So we did want to acknowledge, yes, we do have a live mascot here on Springball Boulevard. No, we will not stop and cut that out. This is part of it. Piper's parlay will be coming as we get past the break here. All right, Piper, is it good? Okay, good for her. All right, so as I was saying, Michael Joseph, looking at that DC offense, we obviously have to take a look at how Houston has stacked up against the run game. Well, it's been pretty damn good, as we talked to Liam Ryan about. Credit Brian Stewart coordinating that Phillips 3-4. He was a nominee for our No Respect Award, a guy who just hasn't got the credit. Obviously, Wade Phillips was the big pusher behind this whole defense, but Brian Stewart's been great as well. I think it's a safe bet, though, even though Houston hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher all season. Pretty safe bet that DC is going to go over 100 yards anyway. In fact, I'll go as far as to say Abram Smith is going to end up doing that on his own, over 100 yards rushing. Rykel Armstead back in practice with a calf injury that held him out last week. That's going to be huge for that running back room. And listen, we talked about to Liam Ryan that DC line not getting enough credit, even through the injuries, week in, week out. DC using the run again. And they're going to end up being the pick for me here, Zook, as they are every single week. I just think too much Abram Smith, too much physicality up front. we talked to Liam Ryan about Tim Ward and some of the guys on the defensive side for Houston that he thought would star. And I assume you're going against me here because every week you've been reluctant to pick the DC defenders. So what do? You go Houston Roughnecks, your squad. You're a closet Roughnecks fan. I'm putting it out there.
I am not a closet Roughnecks fan.
They're not in your division.
I'm just saying, they've won me a few dollars here and there, so I think same thing. Bounce back week.
Yeah. Some extra rest, too, as we talked about.
Extra rest. I trust in Wade Phillips to get this done. I think their rushing attack this week is going to surprise you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see. Max Borgi has been a stud. That DC run defense do the best to hold their own. Monday Night Lights, who is Mikey Manziel going with here? Damn it. I have no thoughts on that one.
And that's why we're going to win.
Well, I was hoping it wouldn't be DC across the board because that'd be trouble. But again, I guess we'll see you on Victory Tuesday this time. Won't be a Victory Monday. We've been getting used to those, but Tuesday night will be.
Siri doesn't know what that is.
That's true. I have to reprogram my calendar. The AI hasn't picked up on the Victory Tuesday yet. So our Boulevard Bowl Tour is still on a hiatus. Just wanted to mention that quickly. We were supposed to hit the road again week 7. But as you saw, XFL moved a couple of games around. I don't know whose idea it was, Zook. The XFL actually scheduled a Saturday night game in Houston, probably not realizing that the Final Four is also in Houston that same night. So I didn't understand at first maybe why they pushed it back. This is why. Final Four in Houston, you have the Houston Cougars, a 1 seed, could end up playing. So a potentially huge sports weekend in H-Town, week 7. That's the first weekend of April. You could have Houston in the Final Four Saturday night. You could have the Roughnecks Sunday, and then the national championship game in the city Monday. So that's a huge weekend. Of course, we're going to get to Houston. We pushed our trip back. We'll tell you when. But we'll be back on the road week 8. So taking a little hiatus. I'm getting a little extra more sleep. Moving on to our best bets here. I kind of teased at it before. I am laying the 9.5 with Seattle. I just think Orlando's pass defense is in complete shambles. I saw what Ben DiNucci's been able to do against bad secondaries, and he just carves them up. I am a little concerned about Quentin Dormady and him showing out. That scared me. I think Paxton Lynch would make me more comfortable in this spot. Quentin Dormady's been that spark. Played really well against Vegas. Only 3 incompletions. Used Cody Latimer to his advantage. Morgan Ellison is out, so not much of a run game for the Seattle Sea Dragons.
9.5 is stout.
You know why I'm going Seattle? I'll go right back to it, Zook. Thursday night game. Extra rest. Orlando fought till the very end. Gave everything they had on Saturday night. Put it all out there. Then you got to take a demoralizing loss like that. You fly back into Arlington, and you're already now at a 3-day disadvantage from the Dragons, who had the exact opposite. They got another win. Right? I think Dragons by 2 or 3 scores here. Terrible spot for Orlando. The weather in the 90s for this one. So hopefully the Seattle guys are they dial up some cramp 911 and they won't cramp up like Zook does sometimes here. I'm going with DC minus 2.5. That is chalk every week for me. 5-0 against the spread. Why would I? I mean, I could have taken the money line minus 140 on there, but I'll lay the 2.5 with DC. Zook, who you got?
I got St.
Another
Louis.
favorite, huh?
Oh, come on now.
Well, the favorites, I have to put that stat together. I think I did it a couple of weeks ago, and the favorites were covering at a pretty decent clip. I think it was like 58%.
Right. I like St. Louis minus 3. I think this is a no-brain bet.
Really?
And that's why this is my best bet.
Okay.
Because it's a no-brainer. I mean, take the points, collect the cash.
So you're still in that mode where you're not going to reward a team for what they do against Orlando. Because Vegas looked pretty solid in that game. Like Luis Perez was coming on.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the cash on.
Okay.
On what Tuesday show?
Yeah.
There'll be a money bag right there.
Well, you don't want to fall to 500 here. So
I know.
Come on, Zook. And of course, somebody had to fade you because he wasn't fading me this week, right? Not enough guts to take Orlando plus 9.5. Mikey Manziel. He actually had the nerve to text me his best bet. Guess what it was? I'll put it out there. It was DC.
Oh, boy.
He actually thought he was going to bet DC. Have I been betting DC since before the season started? I have a future, full disclosure, plus 650. DraftKings offering me a big cash out. I will not take it. I got that at plus 650. I told you all the ride before the season. I'm going to have a very good shot at this, but it'll be a pretty big payout. And Mikey Manziel had the nerve to text me, I'm going to bet DC this week.
You should probably knock on wood because they ain't getting through Seattle, baby.
There is no amount that Mike could pay me in order to bet DC on this show. So his secondary option, Vegas plus 3. He's going to go ahead and fade Zook there. Those are our Boulevard best bets. Again, the record of Mikey Manziel does not reflect the record of Springball Boulevard. We are 10 of 15 as a show. Pretty solid start. Looking to improve on that. Well, that is Springball Boulevard. Again, in the midst of March Madness here. And how can I forget this? You know why?
You did it again.
Well, here's why.
What is wrong with you?
She even reminded me.
She did.
And I still forgot. Live television.
Good thing you have a producer.
Live television, let me tell you.
Piper's Parlay, plus 360.
All money lines this week, huh?
She won last week, plus 830?
Plus 830 or something.
Is that what
in
it was?
that range. It was definitely over 8-1. Won the Boulevard boys some cash. And Piper going with the favorites here, pretty much all chalk. I like it. I mean, she heard our advice. Stay away from the totals. The numbers don't lie. Many of you who are betting on totals are not doing well. I know I'm not, so I'm cutting it out the rest of the season. In fact, I'm giving up totals for Lent. Piper going with 3 money lines here. St. Louis, Arlington, DC. 2 home teams and a road squad.
If she cashes again, what are we going to buy
2
her?
of 5, right?
Where are we going to buy her? Something huge.
Well, let her tell us because she's been very vocal during the show tonight.
True.
So maybe that was a hint. So for Mikey Manziel, who will see you on Tuesday night for Man to Man, Chris Zook in the control room. I am Matty Fresh. Guys, enjoy XFL Week 6. Going to be a great weekend of games yet again. Possibly the best game of the season in store for Monday night. DC against Houston. Remember, it's Sweet 16. It's Elite 8. But there is no such thing as football season. We will see you Tuesday night back on the Boulevard. Good night, guys.